Today we are here for another interesting speech. It's a presentation of an ongoing PhD work, and we are very happy to see that Mukerrem is making progress in his PhD, but he needs your feedback to improve and to continue further, and you will be also going through the same process in the future. We will do similar presentations in the future to allow our students to share their research with their classmates and friends, to get their feedback, and also share like what kind of research is going on. Sometimes seeing how others suffer, you feel also happy when you suffer. So producing something requires suffering. No pain, no gain, as they say in English. But it is intellectual suffering. Without intellectual suffering, no intellectual maturity can be achieved. So it is part of scholarship, as Al-Basramaji explained in the beginning of the year. So it's very much needed and required. So I am very happy to introduce Mukerrem, and most of you know, for those who don't know, he's working on this, on how civilization, the relation between civilization and religion is seen by different schools of thought in the Muslim world and in the West in a comparative manner. So the floor is yours, Mukerrem.
This presentation, as Professor Huda pointed out, it's a kind of an ad hoc construction, in a sense it's in the process of being defined, and one of the advantages of this presentation would be, for one thing, that it would pave the way for a mutual discussion, and secondly, to nurture this particular research in the process. From the very outset, I think it was mentioned that my interest in the relationship to religion and civilization is more of theoretical, and in that sense, it's confined to the idea of Islamic and Western civilization. In the very conception of, for instance, Islamic and Western civilization, what is intended, implied, or an explicit idea behind, for instance, Islamic civilization? What is the relationship between Islam, for instance, as one epistemic category, and civilization? So that would be my central focus, and to make it somehow a little bit manageable, I start with the general sort of introductory blueprint, sort of roadmap as to how civilization came to be defined, specifically dating it from the 19th century onwards. And we see, as I individually was trying to see some of the patterns and emerging trends, I begin to sort of patterns here, developing directions, which I thought are very relevant, basically, in order to chart out any probable and any possible relationship between religion and civilization. So the point that I'm trying to make in simple terms is, and in fact, the central argument or the bone of this presentation will be, without the necessary and specific reference to some of the trends in the study of Islamic and Western civilization, one cannot talk about something that, directly, without having, without the ability to chart out some of the trends. So the trends are an important springboards here. They are fundamentally building blocks for my later discussions. Once we are able to chart out, ascertain some of the trends, then we can be able to talk about the implications of those trends for the nature and form of relationship in Islamic civilization or in Western civilization as well. Now, some of the three foundational trends which I came across in the course of my preliminary research are The first one is more of the historical critical trend in the study of Islamic and Western civilization. And the second one is more of a religio-philosophical trend. The third one is a multiplex trend. These trends, as I would argue, are the most prevalent, the most pervasive form of trend-based directions that one would be able to discover in the course of engaging some of the literatures in Islamic and Western civilizations. Now, to begin with, one of the central problems of studying the relationship of religion and civilization is to be able to have a major starting point. So to begin to start off from a particular vantage point, you need some boxes, some cornerstone. But that's not possible in the context of Islamic and Western civilization. And one of the problems is there are a huge range of subjectivities, differences and multiplicities in for instance, the idea of Islamic civilization. Nobody can, for instance, bring about or assert that there is one particular model idea behind an Islamic civilization. In fact, there are as many Islamic civilizations as there are for Western civilization, meaning that there are different ontological and methodological presuppositions in defining or in talking about an Islamic civilization. So I would argue, most of the Muslim thinkers in the context of Islamic civilization or Western thinkers writing about Islamic civilizations have a different formulation of the civilization which I'm talking about, the Islamic or the Western civilizations. So this multiplicity within and across civilizations, Islamic and Western civilizations, make it difficult. It's one of the hurdles in our attempt to understand the relationship between religion and civilization. So one way of addressing this challenge would be to try to read on and try to discover some of the trends, some of the emerging patterns, directions, so that after having tapping on these major core trends, we can then at least in the past be able to speculate about the possibility of any form of relationship between religion and civilization. And that being said, once again, in the relation between in the study of the relation between religion and civilization in the context of Islamic and Western civilizations, you have two important theoretical sort of paradigms, or what anthropologists call an ethic and emic perspective. An ethic perspective is how the individual from outside sees a particular phenomenon, let's say civilization. An individual from the Western world, let's say Max Hodgson, talking about Islamic civilization, it's an ethic perspective. Whereas Abu Hassan al-Nadawi or Sayyid Qutb or Malik bin Nabi writing about an Islamic civilization, it's called an emic perspective, an inside-out approach to Islamic civilization. So you have multiplicities within these paradigms, within Islamic civilization and across. This is very much important because it entails a differential wealth and strong in essence, ontological, methodological, and then at the same time philosophical foundations. But these unique and analytic perspectives are relevant. In fact, it's going to be one of, I would argue, one of my central findings at the end of my research. My focus will more likely be on how the researchers view. On the one hand, by the way, as I pointed out at the very beginning, for an Islamic civilization, there are individuals who write about the civilization, and there are people or the participants whom we call Muslims. The Muslims' attitude about an Islamic civilization is one level of thinking about Islamic civilization than someone, let's say I'm an expert, writing about an Islamic civilization. So the subjective construction of an Islamic civilization, or the people's view of the civilization, and the experts could be a Muslim or an Islamic thinker, or else from someone like from the West. So these are some of the contradictions in the study of Islamic civilization and Western civilization as well. As you can see, it's a little bit broad and therefore hard basically to manage. So my focus will fundamentally be on some of the experts in the study of Islamic and Western civilization, and I will develop the trends, and from those trends I will try to highlight the nature and form of it. It could be an explicit or implicitly implied, and it will be done through some of the individuals whom I think can represent some of the trends in the course of my researching area. Now, it's very important that you need to know what I mean by a trend in this particular context. It's very important. The trend in this particular presentation in the course of my research engagement generally encompasses a shared scholarly tendency It could be an overt or a covert, transcending the spatial-temporal contour and then discerning compartments in the accounting for the nature and form of relations implied or expressed between religion and civilization, both in the conception of Islamic and Western civilization. It's very important. Trends, they're not as such some kind of temporal directions. It goes far beyond that in this particular research context. So, in my attempt to develop these trends in the study of Islamic and Western civilization, I have this my theory in my mind that what's called in sociology and basically in anthropology is where a grounded theory. Grounded theory is an approach through which you tend to develop a theory out of data that are at your hands. Yeah. It's more of an inside-out approach to developing a macro-level theoretical synthesis. It's a sort of meta-analysis. And this grounded theory enables me to develop these trends. For example, when I say multiplex trend in the study of Islamic and Western civilization, this multiplexity emerged out of the data I have. What are the data? Some of the theories. I have the number of theories which I have examined. Those theories are, in my context, are the data, an important inputs. So from those inputs, I try to develop a trend which would somehow represent some of these data in a sense. So this is called a grounded theory in sociology. So in a sense, it's meta-analysis of theories. It's not only limited to one particular theory of Islamic or Western civilization. It goes far beyond that, taking one step ahead. Now, I will move on to the general scholastic trend in the 90s and early 20th century in the study of civilizations, as Ibn Spitzer, the well-known cultural anthropologist, studied. This was a period of, the witch makers, he says, myth makers, sorry. This myth makers for him are, as you know, the development of the social science in general, sociology, psychology, anthropology, history, and philosophy. These are the foundational springboards for the advent of what I would call civilization studies in the 90s and early 20th century. So these disciplines have had their own fathers, key representative figures. Now these key representative figures played a significant role in shaping how we understand civilization in the 19th and early 20th century, and most of them are from the Western world. Some of these individuals include Karl Marx, Immanuel Kant, August Comte, Herbert Spencer, Sigmund Freud, Salvador Bernather, James Frazer, Charles Darwin, and you have a number of other individuals. But these are, in the context of Ibn Spitzer, these are key individuals. You have Karl Marx, the polymath social science, the father of sociology, and at some time anthropology. Immanuel Kant is also the father of sociology, and once again, anthropology. August Comte is the father of sociology, who have coined the word sociology itself. Herbert Spencer is an important father of sociology and anthropology as well. You have Sigmund Freud, a critical figure in the study of psychology and psychiatry. Then you have James Frazer, Charles Darwin, who was like one of the individuals who created what we would call an axial moment in Western perception, understanding of society, because he has fundamentally affected, like most of these thinkers at a particular point in time. Now, in this particular period, the study of religion, in contradistinction with civilization, was approached from three general major themes. One of them was the idea of destituteness. It has a lot to do with economy, illusion, and the condition of fear. Religion, preceding society, came out because of human destituteness, which you may have individuals like Karl Marx, Max Weber, Nietzsche, have had this idea of religion, which has a sort of, a latent, sort of a historically subconscious attachment with economy. And that's the idea of destituteness. Karl Marx, as you know, is a well-known individual to have argued that religion was created by the poor. And as such, it is an opium of the poor. But for Nietzsche, on the reverse, an important quotation which I came across in the works of Islam to Islam was Alice Belovich. You will have a quotation whereby Nietzsche is saying that religion was created by the poor to delude those who are in higher socioeconomic status, the elite. And Max Weber, he's a well-known individual in sociology of religion. And if you happen to read the first 2 or 3 pages, Weber would tell you that behind the emergence of religion lies rationalization. And in rationalization, there is the idea of an interest, and which he somehow correlates with economy. And obviously, as we know, in his later book called The Spirit of Capitalism, he talked a lot about how the economy and religion have, intertwined in an attempt to account for Western civilization, material civilization. Delusion is once again one of the recurrent themes in the 90s and early 20th century, and it's in fact one of the most common pervasive form of theorizing about religion and its implication for society as such. August Comte is one of the individuals talking about religion in essence of delusion and illusion. Lubbock is one of the cultural anthropologists who also have this idea as well. Fraser, Edward Bernard Taylor, Food is well known, as you know, he had a number of books dedicated to purpose only. Bernard Brussel, a well-known philosopher, as we know it, had this idea of religion being an illusion and its propensity for the advent of society and civilization is not, acceptable for them somehow. Terror in the street, it has a lot to do with human being afraid of himself, human beings living in a state of nature, being hunted by what they call spirits and ghosts. So they have to represent some sort of transcendental reality based on these encounters. And these are the most recurrent themes in the works of Darwin. He has an interesting book on this. He did a book which is titled The Descent of Man. And from in that particular book, I came to know that Darwin, as opposed to the conventional understanding, I don't know, maybe he may have shifted his attitude, but he have had this idea that God was behind the universe. He had this belief that God created the universe. Edward Bernard Taylor and Spencer are well-known individuals who have this idea that behind religion and later on the emergence of society, these are some of the cases. Now, the question that you might be wondering is how this can be correlated with civilization and society. Now, the initial origin of religion through dream, imagination, and illusion parallels the lagging of mental development and the typical of savages, barbaric, less civilized, and more generally lower races. This was the view of most of the early 19th century and the first half of the 20th century. Darwin, Comte, Lubbock, Freud, and Taylor. The development of religious ideas, once again, according to Comte, was positively correlated with human social development. In essence, you see, he says now, each of us aware, if he looks back upon his own history, that he was a theologian in his childhood, a metaphysician in his youth, and a natural philosopher in his manhood. Besides the observation of facts, we have the theoretical reasons to support this law. Yeah. You have this important correlation between this natural human development and human social development, and therefore by implication talking about the emergence of religion and civilization on the other hand. Sigmund Freud is a well-known individual who have simultaneously posited the idea of human natural development and religiosity and civilization. If you happen to read some of his works, you cannot you cannot disentangle his idea of civilization from human biological constitution. Human instincts and drives have a lot to do with the emergence of religion, society, and civilization. Oedipus complex, the father figure, is like a recurrent ghost that hunts down any idea of food, like religion, civilization in particular. And he used to, he believed that religion was a universal neuros of humanity. For Comte, we see a sort of evolution, a sort of progression in human history from a theological stage to more of a metaphysical stage. That metaphysical stage will end in what we call in the scientific stage, or the humanist stage, where religion will no longer play any role. That it will be substituted by science, and believing in exact science. In the first stage, in the theological stage, human beings go through three important stages. One is fetishism, it's sort of imagination, an illusion state, and it will be followed by a polytheistic society where there are many gods, and that will once again be replaced by monotheism, the belief in one God. And at the end of the day, we will end up being atheists. So anyways, you have this theistic society, the deistic society, and at the end of the day, you will have an atheistic society. This was the imagination, for the most part, that cross-cut almost all the major thinkers or the forefathers of classical forefathers of social science. After the scientific stage is reached, religion will no longer have any particular role to play. That's what the idea of Kant. Edward Burnett Taylor is a well-known individual. I know, like he has three volumes on the study of culture, religion, and society, and he, strongly believe that human society necessarily goes through three important stages. One, from savagery conditions to barbaric stage, from barbaric stage to civilization. And each of these states have their own sub-states and elements. Now, like Auguste Comte, Edward Burnett was a father of cultural anthropology, where he believed that it is so gradually, in the course of ages, religion will lose its place in the nation. That all the power of statecraft and all the wealth of the temples will not save it from eventually yielding to a belief that takes it a higher knowledge and teaches a better life. More of Auguste Comte science and rationalism in essence. Now, there are many criticisms posited against some of these 19th century fathers of social science, and an important empirically, there are criticisms posited from theological vantage point, criticism posited from tautological vantage point. You have a number of criticisms. Eurocentrism was one of the recurrent themes, posited against them. But one empirical reality, I think, speaks a lot than many of the theoretical counter-attacks. And this is religion in the 21st century, as we know, despite its forms and contrary to the deterministic theories of the early 19th and 20th century, has remained pervasive and intact in the face of advances in science and technology. So, according to research by Pew, by 2015, religious affiliation will be more than 90% by 2050. It's a projection. So, in a sense, there is no contradiction, there is no mutually exclusive process by which human beings lose their religion. So, in a sense, partly their projection have proved refused, in a sense, not quoted at some point in time. But when it comes to the Muslim thinkers at that particular period, but obviously it's not my concern, insofar as sociology, anthropology, history, and most of these fields are concerned, these thinkers are not as such well articulated, and they are, as you know, are addressed in such environments whereby you have a concern for comparatively being civilization. So in that instance, in the, institutions or individuals may tend to study how these processes were conceived, understood under Muslim thinkers. So the dominant model in the 90s and early 20th century, as you know, was the modernist strand of Islamic thought, represented by Muhammad Abu and Banna, Malik bin Nabi. Sorry, Banna was more of a revivalist than a modernist. Malik bin Nabi, in the words of professor like Lawrence, Malik bin Nabi was one of the most extreme modernist representative of the Islamic thought. John Calp is one of the individuals, Ahmed Kahan, Abdullah Jawdat, and Fazlullah. These are some of the individuals who can be argued to represent a sort of a pro-deterministic, a pro-rationalistic approach to the study of human society, religion, and civilization. Muhammad Abdu somehow was argued to have this idea of, a need for change in Islamic society, that we need to adopt to Western society. Somehow it's science, technology, and ideas, institutions are relevant, so we need to make a reform. That was his idea. And the reform was not necessarily from outside, but also from inside, and he had this idea of tawfiq between some of the methods, some of the school of thought in Islam. Gürkal, as you know, is one of the individuals who have argued that there is no Islamic civilization. Civilization cannot be based on religion. That was his view. Ahmed Kahal is a well-known naturalist and rationalist, and once again, Abdullah Jawdat is said to have believed that there is no any civilization. Civilization is a Western civilization. This is the view of Abdullah Jawdat. And Fazl Rahman, as you know, it's a black and white modernist thinker of the period. The other individuals are more of revivalists, you happen to study Nadawi, Iqbal, Mawdudi, Qutb, Faruqi, Rashid Rida, and Sayyid Halim Pasha, Namik Kamal, for the most part, I would argue, Ali Aziz Dawovic, some of his writings would reflect more of a revivalist propensity for in Islamic civilization. And Ali Mazdouri, well known in the African continent in general. Now I'll move on to some of the key empirical trends, what I mean by a historical empirical trend in the study of Islamic and Western civilization. Now this trend, insofar as my research reveals, draws fundamentally from the study of Islamic civilization or Western civilization from a historically and empirically charged approach to the study of civilization. So among others, these scholars or theories which can be considered to fall under a historical-empirical trend, they emphasize what I would call issues and factors embedded for the most part in the particular temporal and social contours. Yeah. So there is a great degree of emphasis in the study of Islamic civilization. They are more interested in issues and factors, phenomena, which have had a direct correspondence with a particular point in time and spatial domain. And this applies basically to some of the theories of Islamic and Western civilizations. In this regard, for instance, people or theories which can be considered to fall under this empirical, the historical trend, would argue, like for instance, Islam, starting in the 7th century, gave only an ideological impetus or sort of identity to what can be called an Islamic civilization. However, they assign a significant role to what may be called a time and space embedded factors behind the emergency of an Islamic civilization. Now, Islam in this particular framework, in this particular trend, in the study of civilization in general, and Islamic civilization in particular, Islam only assumes a symbolic role in the making of Islamic civilization. Islam might have triggered the genesis of Islamic civilization, some of through its ideas, and gave it an identity to its civilization. However, the civilization implied by this Islamic civilization is not fundamentally a civilization of Islamic civilization. It's here in this trend generally assumed that Islamic civilization is one among others with many things having precedency in time and space. So the civilization have always been there, but the idea is Islam came in the 7th century and gave it some identity, some symbolic role. Examples may include the works of Hoytzer. Well, almost all the Orientalist scholarship can claim into this particular trend. I included Hoytzer not because of his sort of nuanced anti-Orientalist thinker. No, it's partly because I think in this empirical approach to the study of Islamic civilization, Hoytzer is still contrary to the argument for Moses Edmundberg, who have basically edited the book by rethinking world history, who accuses Hodgson of cultural essentialism, which I am against it. He says Hodgson had this idea of cultural essentialism, in a sense, behind the genesis and goals of Islamic civilization. The Islamic ideas and Sharia played significant role for the advent of Islamic civilization. So because of that, he says, he is more of a culturally essentialist in his approach to the study of Islamic civilization. This is a point which we take in the study of in British world history. So my argument, however, is Hodgson should not be rather questioned for his cultural essentialism. I would argue that the cultural essentialism is more of manifest. His latent argument is fundamentally pro-historicist, and for the most part, he is interested in factors, which I will show you some of the points which I have included. Typically shows a more of a pro-historicist and empirical approach to the study of Islamic civilization. So in essence, even Hodgson himself, no matter how he played a sort of a neutral pro-Islamic civilization tendency, but the bone of his argument, I would argue, in this my presentation, and in fact it's open for discussion as well, and by including Hodgson, by the way, I'm hoping that we will have a discussion and debate at the end of this discussion. But still my argument remains that in Hodgson's conception of what he called an Islamic civilization, I would argue there is a greater degree of, even though it's manifest, it's more of latent, it's what I would call a euphemistic approach to the study of Islamic civilization, but the bone of his argument remains that Islamic civilization remains remains something sui generis in sociology. It's an independent phenomenon, but Islam gave it a symbolic and coloring. Now, some of the quotations that I have collected from the 3 volumes and the last written world history includes these in the He says, the Muslims inherited also in large measure the problems, the opportunities and temptations of their ancestors in the region, even those aspects of the civilization which were most strikingly new, for instance, the Muslim religion itself were formed in the context of the earlier Irano-Semitic traditions. The goals to be set, the norms to be abided by, has been adumbrated, established longer before. What differed under Islam was largely the relative weighing of the balancing between them and between some of the elements which Islam came to have later on, Sufism, rationalism, and fiqh itself. In working out this new balance, mind you, the impulse which formed Islamic culture proved to be exceptionally comprehensive and self-sufficient. Even these impulses, look, even these impulses go back into pre-Islamic times. So the bone of this argument, once again, it's, from outside it looks like as if he took, anti-Orientalist, Islam sort of approach. The bone of his argument remains that an Islamic civilization appears to be, at the end of this argument, that what we have is a skeleton. Social organizations, economic patterns, they are all carried unmistakably an Islamic current. It's very important. In short, Hodgson casts this doubt as to whether an Islamic civilization is exceptional or even typical. Like he talked about this issue in his first volume, The Venture of Islam coincides in world history, the classical age. So it doesn't necessarily, however, negate the ideological centrality of Islam. Hodgson, perhaps one of the critical contributions that he had made to the study of Islamic civilization, according to my reading, is that he recognized the ideological, symbolic, or identity role that Islam has played in the emergence of the civilization. But at the end of the day, that civilization is an independent process. And in fact, one of the interesting dimension of the Hodgson's approach to the study of Islamic civilization is his obsession with this, what he called this humanity, human brotherhood, which once again dates back to his rational, Christian rationalist belief. On the one hand, and the idea that he has, which he himself acknowledged in his writing, is the idea by Karl Jaspers in the past. So we have this tension now. Even though Hodgson, talks about this issue, the idea of exceptionalizing, typicalizing ideographic approaches to civilization studies and monotheistic commitments, I see a sort of friction, in essence, that even though at the very beginning, Hodgson appears to have, as I pointed out, at manifest level, admits that ideas, phenomenon of civilization, let's say in Islamic civilization, even though it has a borderless, timeless significance for the understanding of human world history, it remains to be an ideographic area. That's my argument. It is indeed what he gives Islamic civilization what he calls usefulness, synthesis, creative synthesis. These are the recurrent theme, not only unique to Hodgson. This is an important element in the 12 volumes of Aaron Toynbee. The orthodox phase of Islam itself, says Hodgson, as it was created in the course of the first 2 or 3 Muslim centuries, cannot be understood, it's very important, cannot be understood simply as a fulfillment of the vision of Muhammad. That vision could have been fulfilled in innumerable other ways, or indeed, as might have seemed most likely, reduced to merely political ideology to wither away as the Arab ruling class became assimilated. In essence, Islam might have ended up being a political ideology which have later on adopted by the Arabs and might have withered away. This is one tentative approach to the study of Islamic civilization here. An ideology like Marxism, raised at one particular point in time, have had followers and might have had this opportunity, this possibility of being withered away. That's an argument, it's a very important argument. And that's why, and my point, the centripetal force of my argument emanates partly from these ideas, these latent but critical ideas in the study of Islam. the being of Islam must be explained in terms of the aspiration of Syrian Christian monks and Mesopotamian Jews, zealots, aspirations which gave to early Muslim converts their earlier notions of the norms and values which finally led to the establishment of Islamic civilization. That's his argument. So, if we have to generalize the idea of Hodgson in the study of Islamic civilization under the trend of historiographical trend, Islam and Islamic civilization for Hodgson represents, or it is the sort of anomaly in sociological terms, a sort of development between pre-Arabian period and Iran-Semitic traditions on the one hand, and Islam and Islamic civilization between Judeo-Christian tradition and Greek-Roman traditions. Yeah. So it's Islamic civilization, by argument or by implication or by projection, cannot be understood without the necessary reference to pre-Arabian legacies, Irano-Semitic traditions, and you have a number of things here. Literary traditions, philosophy, Sufism. Pre-Arabian period particularly is known for this literary art, Shia in particular, Judeo-Christian tradition, religion itself, and the Greco-Roman tradition in particular, the idea of this discipline and this idea of rationalism. So in other words, this means that Hodgson's idea of Islamic civilization, for the most part, is based on ideas, principles, and processes which he, I would argue, tries to string together, which he surgically removes from the context of the Western civilization and some of the civilizations in the East, like the case in Iran in particular. Hodgson and Edinburgh, these are the points which I have read, and the most astonishing argument by Edinburgh, who happened to have edited the written oral history, is very interesting and in fact very, I don't know, it's intellectually less potent. You know, he would argue that Hodgson's approach to the study of Islamic civilization is much less powerful, less interesting, partly because he has this obsession of ideas, identity of Islamic civilization, and he says the best approach, the one which he recommends at Edinburgh, is William McNeil's approach to the study of civilization in general. William McNeil, he wrote one important book, I don't know whether it's in our reading list in this institute, The Rise of Western Civilization. The Rise of the West is one of his books. William McNeil and Hodgson were also, by the way, members of the Chicago University. Historians might have had contact between each other. But McNeil, perhaps far away from Hodgson, was like, I would argue, more Orientalist, more Eurocentric, and more historicist than Hodgson himself. Yeah. So, Edinburgh being, in the other opposite, of that continuum, appears to take a vision, perspective, which I argue is fundamentally absurd. Now, you have a number of thinkers in the historio-empirical trend: Oswald Spengler, August Comte, Edward Bernard Taylor, Bakri, Bob Mukerrem, and others. These are some of the individuals who have the problem of one, positivism, and historicism. Yeah, historicism, I mean relativism, and confining the emergence of certain idea, phenomenon, process, or civilization in our case, being limited to a particular point and a particular place. Now, this approach to a study of Islamic civilization generally uses the idea of ideas from religion and philosophy. Individuals of theories in this trend, they use the idea of consciousness, freedom, Max Weisgensioner, spirituality, happiness, and monotheism. These are some of the recurrent themes that you would get if you happen to study some of the literatures which can fall under the religio-philosophical trend. So, employing these important concepts, they try to build a civilization called an Islamic or Western civilization. In this trend, for instance, under Islamic civilization, individuals may talk about the revolutionary nature of Islam in human history, and some may start from the question of Adam, or some may start from Prophet ﷺ. And they argue that the religious centrality, the idea being very much powerful and playing a springboard there. If it had not been for Islam, there wouldn't have been a civilization of any sort. That's the idea. So the matter of that gave birth to its own civilization. So it's more of religious deterministic approach to the study of Islamic civilization. Some of the individuals include Cesar Karakoc, Ismail al-Faruqi, Sayyid Qutb, and Malik bin Nabi, Muhammad Qutb bin Manyar. Some of these are the individuals which I have explored. Under the context of Western civilization, we can talk about individuals like Gizo, Vico, Mirabeau, Hegel, Schweitzer, Emerson, and a number of individuals. For these individuals, religion and philosophical ideas are foundational. Otherwise, you cannot begin to imagine a civilization. And in fact, Gizo talks about these two important processes: the social process, or social progress on the one hand, and ethical moral progress on the other hand. So, these two important elements, without the complementarity of the two, we cannot be able to assume a civilization. Let's say European civilization for Gizo, for instance. Vigo is a well-known individual for divine providence. Mirabeau is one of the individuals who argue that civilization entails discipline, and the first civilizing agent for him is religion. Hegel, you cannot be able to imagine a society without the necessary principle of monotheism. Schweitzer is a well-known individual who talk about a civilization, what he called an ethical civilization, and an ethical civilization. Ethical one is more pro-moralist, pro-religious approach to civilization, so we cannot be able to distinguish between the two. So this is more of a pro-religious approach to the study of Islamic civilization, and they have a philosophical inclination as well. Now, the multiplex trend is a trend, well, the concept which I took from material, the multiplex trend tends to encompass a variety of mechanisms, approaches, and methods in the study of civilization. So it's not only limited to philosophy, religion, or empirical reality. They transcend all these boxes, and for that matter, you may have the synthesis of religious views, empirical realities, philosophical ideas in the making and the definition of civilizations. So some of the individuals from the classical period, Muhammad Khaldun, Sayyid Halim Pasha, Ali Amin al-Mazrui, Ali al-Lawi, and some of them are critical individuals who are not limited to a particular philosophy, idea, or empirical conditions. Toynbee, in his study of Western civilization, particularly, if we happen to get Toynbee's idea of civilization from the second half of his 12 volume of the study of history, civilization studies, he becomes more of, he was like more of an agnostic in the study of civilization in the first 6 volumes, but later in his latter conception of civilization, a significant dose of religion begins to emerge, and part of the reason why I put him here. And in fact, as you know, his latter work is very much important in the study of civilization. Problem is another individual in the study of Western civilization, more pro-religious approach to civilization. Jasper, once again, is a well-known individual for his conception of spirituality and consciousness, an important vantage point to talk about civilization in history. Now, points to be mentioned. These are the classification which I have made is like an ad hoc conceptual framework. It's not mutually exclusive, and nor does it assume an exhaustiveness. So, but what's the importance of this trend for my research and for our understanding of civilization? It gives us the overall trend in the study of civilization in general, Islamic or Western civilization, and Islamic and Western civilization. So it can give us the broader picture. Now I will finish with this particular slide. These trends which I have developed are the multiplex trend, the historical empirical trend, and the third one is more of the multiplex trend. A complementarity between religion or religious ideas and philosophical ideas are more common among the theories which can be found under the multiplex trend, and rarely a historical-empirical trend, and especially in this case is Hodgson. The second one is more of a substitutivity between religion and civilization. In this form of relationship, we see independency. Yani, civilization is an independent process that conquers in one or another beliefs, ideas, and systems. So this is more of a pro-historicist and a pro-positivist approach to the study of civilization in general and Islamic and Western civilization in particular. The last one is functionality. In essence, one is a function of the other. For instance, if it had not been for Islam, there wouldn't have been a civilization. If it had not been for Judeo-Christian tradition, there wouldn't have been a Western civilization. Yeah. So in that regard, we see dependability between these ideas of religion and civilization, and it's more of deterministic, and it's common specifically among theories that could be found in religious philosophy trends. I think I've made my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mukerrem, for sharing your research. You can see that Mukerrem suffered a lot, to bring it to this level. But you see that he has now a clarity of mind, like how he should proceed. He made great progress. From now on, what he needs to do is label, read, collect data together after he set the framework for further research. So we wish that he becomes the first to complete graduate. And then we will celebrate Ethiopian food, right? All right. So our first presentation was a pictorial, visual survey, and this was very textual, scholarly, academic. But so now it's time for your questions, comments, objections, critiques. Yes.